But to protect yourself, you have to make sound decisions. For instance, if I get in my car and I never put my seatbelt on, I can drive the car, I can drive perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and somebody hits me and I don't have my seatbelt on, there's going to be more damage that happens to me. Is it my fault that this person hit me?
No.
No. I drove perfectly fine. I did what I was supposed to do. But because I didn't make a sound decision to put my seatbelt on and I didn't value safety first,
Mm-hmm.
then now I'm in more trouble than I would have been if I had have left it on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same mentality. This is her not putting her seatbelt on. This is you riding and going free and then getting taken advantage of because people do this. So apparently, to make it short, she had two kids, two boys, I believe, when she was about 17 years old. She was a young mother. Married the gentleman who she was originally with the two children, got divorced from him because she wanted more. Basically, she started following this crazy lady on social media. I can't remember that. You know the sprinkle girl
Oh,
lady.
I know what you're
She
talking
started
about.
following her, hearing advice from her, which is terrible advice. Whoever that lady is, don't listen to her. And then she finds this guy on a dating website, and they start talking. They go on like two dates. Within a week, they're talking about getting married to each other. He's like, "You can't move," because she was homeless at the time, and she had two kids. These are two kids that are not his, two boys, right? So, um, he was like, "Well, you can move in with me, but if you move in with me, we have to be married." And this guy, first of all, is 20 years older than her
Good mercy.
at the time. She's 24 now, I think. And he's like, or no, I think even older. And she said something about like, I don't like guys that are within 20 years age of me or something like that, right? So she's looking for a daddy, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like a dad, literally. And
Mm-hmm.
I think she didn't have her father in her life for whatever reason. So a lot of this stuff is trauma brought on decisions. It's repeating a cycle of stuff that's probably already happened, uh, primarily. But at the same time, it's still dumb decisions. So she moves in with a stranger, marries a stranger, and moves her children, her young children, with her in a stranger's house within a after talking to him for a week and getting married to him within a week's time. So no vetting was done.
Mm-hmm.
No go. Now of course this man is paid. He got all the money in the world. You know he has all these things, right? She's able to be taken care of, not have to do anything, right? But all that time he's being predatory on her and her two girls, and it started happening early in the marriage. She didn't leave after he was doing that to her early in the marriage, and then now she finally happened to her kid. Now she finally left, thank God. But like all of that came from the stem of not making proper decisions. And this is somebody who, in most cases, at least the guy, right, would look at as like, oh, he's successful, he has things and stuff like that. Of course, he's a predator. Um, but yeah, that's the importance of having Christ and vetting. Like you don't just get into a conversation with somebody and everything clicks in your mind off rip. Like that's really just honeymoon phases. You
Yeah.
don't know who this person is.
Yeah. There's
So yeah, crazy story, but I think it was kind of relevant to what we were talking
a
about.
couple things that I actually think about a lot of things, but I'm gonna talk about only two things specifically. One comes, and they both come back to protecting women. My man Street Hymns, second time we ended up mentioning him today. He recently talked about it's harder to protect women when they put themselves in dangerous situations.
Talk
about there's a narrative like protect black women, like we want y'all to protect us, but it is much harder to do when people put themselves in hard situations. It makes us have to do more, right? So that's the first thing. Always be careful. Men and women, be careful about what you're doing because not only is it harder to protect you based on the situation you put yourself in, but also your decisions have ramifications for other people in ways that you're probably never going to understand.
And,
hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for one, in this situation, that woman's decision to hop into a relationship with a man she didn't know had ramifications for her that she definitely didn't want, and then ramifications for her children that she really didn't want, and now we have no clue how that's going to impact their life. But also, I think about there's a story in the Bible, in the book of Genesis, where one of Jacob's daughters ends up getting raped by some men. And this is what I mean by a lot can happen based on your decision. It's not her fault that she got raped. Let me be very clear. It's never a person. When something bad happens to you, that's not your fault. It's the fault of whoever did the wrong thing. Period. Mm-hmm. All I'm saying is you can do things to prevent some of that stuff from happening, so it don't matter who would have intention, it don't happen no way. Mm-hmm. So she ends up, that happens to her, but when people actually care about you, people are willing to take action. So what happened after they find out what happened to her sister is, long story short, they devised a plan to go and murder all the men in that area. Because you can't do that to somebody's loved one. And so the reason I bring it up as to say like the other people who are affected is because not only did whoever raped her end up getting got, all the men got. Now, how many people have a drastically different life? Because her brothers came and they said no, I'm protecting my sister. They did what they had to do. Don't know if they ever would have had to kill somebody. Mm-hmm. But they had to do it in that situation, right? All those men, all their wives, all their kids, all their families, they all are now dealing with those men not being there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of ramifications. Because of one decision that happened to one person, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's just, it makes me think of one more thing. I'm gonna be quiet.
No, you good.
The Black Men Do Talk podcast used to be held at the Blacklit. It was a Black-owned bookstore, and it was a really dope spot. But there was a person there who was essentially stalking the owner, who was a Black lady, who is now moved. She moved because of that situation. Here's the crazy thing, though. Some of the men that go to that podcast actually care about the owner of that place. And so I was there one day, and one of them was like, "Hey, Miles, when these ladies walk to their car, you and any other fellas, make sure they get to their car safely, because this is the situation." Mm-hmm. Like, okay, cool. Not only that, some of them are carrying, "This is Texas. If anything happens, scream, shout, let me know. I got your back." Mm-hmm. Because one person was going crazy. If they would have made a step a little too far, I don't know what might have happened. Mm-hmm. What could have happened. Yeah. And thank God that lady was not a lady just willfully putting herself in danger, but she was smart about it. She told the men around her that she knew would care and was willing to protect her to make sure nothing crazy happened. Because if something crazy did happen, those weapons probably would have got pulled out. Mm-hmm. Right? So we have to be careful. Our decisions cannot just be frivolous decisions, because you don't know all the ramifications about it. Mm-hmm. Especially if you got somebody who loves you, don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. Think through every decision, even the ones that seem light.
That's a great point, because it goes, just as you said, that situation could have gone a certain way, even based upon her decisions, although it's not her fault that she has this stalker.
Not her fault.
Like, not her fault at all. So, you know, if she decides to allow, or, you know, to be out on her own a lot, or, you know, whatever, things that can get her into a potential situation, then it's going to cause us, or people who are surrounding, to have to step in or whatever, right? But yeah, it's crazy that we look at situations like this. I would say just the Black community as a whole, as far as like, you know, Black women aren't protected by Black men in situations, and you're exactly right in the sense that there is protection there, but we can't protect you from yourselves sometimes. Just like y'all can't protect us from ourselves if we're being detrimental to us. And so and when you don't protect you from yourself, that puts us into danger too. Because then now we have to step up and try to figure out what's going on and be the protection
you want us to be.
Exactly. And a lot of times when it comes to men, it's the man that ultimately takes the brunt of the, like, as far as being the repercussionary person. Let's use it. I want to make sure I use an example, because I don't want you to think like if a woman gets sexually harassed or something like that, and of course the man doesn't take on the brunt of that. But if, like, let's say somebody disrespected you at the McDonald's, and then now you you go home and you tell your man, hey, look, I can't believe this man disrespect me, and you know your man's a hothead and he's like on a full protection mode. He goes up there, whoops that man, kills him. He in jail. Your father to your children is going. All this kind of stuff is going because you riled him up because you couldn't be responsible enough with your attitude, even if you were in the right to have an attitude with somebody. To think about, like, no, let me not enter my husband into this situation. I'll let him know about it, but I'm like, look, hey, calm down.
Well, something like that recently happened to, I think, like a football player or something. Him and his girl got into it. She left. She got her brothers. She brought her brothers back to his house, and he shot and killed them because they were, coming into his house, and he actually got acquitted of it.
Yeah,
and it's just like, don't things escalate, especially when you involve men.
Exactly.
Like, men don't.
We're not gonna talk it out for too long.
They're not talking it out.
Yeah,
and it's not just gonna be a fight. Like I heard somebody once was like, I want my man to fight for me. I'm like, men kill men. Exactly. Like that's what happens. Like, we gotta not escalate stuff. Yeah,
exactly.
You never want men to fight. I think about that time. Remember when we were walking home? Those group of kids came up trying to start some stuff, and it scared our sister. And our sister got home, and she was crying because some guys were seemingly trying to rough up,
trying to jump us. Basically. Yeah, out of the blue, just random.
Now these are kids. You can't let a little girl come home and her father see her crying. My dad was up. Where was it at? What happened?
Yeah.
Where? Left the house. Looking for it. Because you're not going to do that to his little girl. How bad could that have been? I don't know what honestly, like, when you really think about it, what could have honestly happened based on some knuckleheads thinking they had the right to do some stuff, not understanding who they messing with. Their life could have been changed. My life could have been changed in ways that neither of us know for sure right now.
Yeah, and that's actually what's sad is how lives change so fast.
Yeah. Immediately.
So fast.
And again, it's not always the fault of the person who is affected. Like, it wasn't my sister's fault at all, right? She didn't do nothing wrong. It was their fault. But now my dad has a responsibility as a father. He got to protect his, and he gonna do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if that might put him in a rough situation.
Yeah,
it's just really about assessing the situation and everything. You always gotta assess because, of course, your sister at the time, she's probably younger, so it's harder for her to deal with her emotions and like figure out like, okay, I'm okay, everybody's okay, we didn't end up fighting, whatever, right? So our initial response is like your father's initial response, like, what's going on? What's happening? Like, I gotta go out there and see. Now, of course, if you're a grown woman, you got a husband at home, and something happens to you, and it kind of, gets you out of character a little bit, but nothing actually happens. You gotta have the wherewithal of like, let me calm down, because if I go home and on 10 and something popped off, and then now my husband feels like he got to go and do something, or whatever, or you got to kind of know your personnel. Like if your husband is, he's calm, he can take the information and be okay with it. Cool. But some of us, we ain't like that. If something happens the wrong way, it's like, okay, now it's go time. So you got to be like, okay, let me calm down so that I can go and present this to him in a calm manner so he can be calm. And, we could just look past it and talk about it or whatever, right? But yeah, it's really playing with fire. Like, you can't really do that. So in order for us to be better accountable to each other, we just have to take precautions for ourselves first so that we can be better for each other. Because, that's what we have to do that.
Did you have a comment you wanted to say?
Well, this went very left